Pronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1489 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. The Toronto Maple Leafs baseball team. The best baseball in the city outside the Dome. Join the club and purchase a membership today at mapleleafsbaseball.com. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. The Advantaged Investor Podcast from Raymond James Canada. Valuable perspective for Canadian investors who want to remain knowledgeable, informed, and focused on long-term success. Season 6 of Yes, We Are Open, an award-winning Moneris podcast hosted by FOTM Al Grego. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Today, making his Toronto Mic debut is Rob Salem. Welcome, Rob.
Hello, hello, hello.
Good to see you.
Good to be seen.
I did meet you. I met you at a David Kine's Hollywood Suite event.
Oh, the breakfast.
The breakfast, yeah. I can't remember who introduced us, but somebody introduced me to you, and I was like, I got to get Rob on Toronto Mic'd, and here you are.
And here I am.
And how are you feeling today?
To be quite honest, I'm a little hungover.
So what happened last night? Can we talk about that?
Well, yeah. I've been teaching at Humber, and they've suspended the program as of yesterday. So I'm actually technically retired, although I'm doing some auditioning, acting stuff. But I'm actually technically now officially retired. I was at the Star for 40 years.
Wow.
And I've been teaching for the last 18. And now I'm a man of leisure. Now I'm a burden upon society.
Okay, so let me understand this. So school's out for summer, so this was just the end of the semester.
Yeah, they're just not starting again next year.
Oh, so you were told like your services are no longer required.
Basically, yeah. They said suspended, but that's for future consideration, but I'm not.
Why is that? Like, give us a little more detail. Like, what?
You know why it is? I'll tell you why. It's exactly why it is.
Yeah.
Low enrollment, and it's because we've been denied most of the international students that really made up the bulk of the program. So that brought it along with its own problems in terms of, because it's a writing program. So,
well, interesting. So is this, I mean, part of my ignorance, but is this like a new rule or law?
New law limiting the number of international students.
What's the rationale behind that? Like, what's the method to that madness?
I'm not entirely sure. I guess obviously to keep things open for Canadian students.
Locals.
Yeah, but I don't know that there were international students to the exclusion of Toronto students. But yeah, it's just a general immigration issue. And I'm sure there are very good reasons for it.
But are you is any part of you happy that you've been forced to actually retire? That sounds like a pretty good thing.
Well, no. I mean, schlepping all the way, and this is very near where the school is.
Yeah, so it was the Humber College South Campus by the Lakeshore.
Yeah. So I won't miss that. Although next year I was going to be all online again, as I was during COVID.
Oh.
But yeah, I'll miss it. It's really great to be able to take this arcane knowledge that I've assembled over these last 50 years, useless for just about anything other than criticism and teaching others.
It is useful for podcasts, though. Like,
yes, that's true.
Now we're meeting. We met each other briefly at the Hollywood Suite event.
Yeah.
But now we'll, spend some real time together. And again, though, I was just realized, though, you'd have to schlep your way down to the lakeshore again to pop over now.
It was sort of nostalgic, given that this all came down yesterday. And anyway, that was a long way of explaining why I'm hungover, because we had a few cocktails to toast the...
What is your drink of choice?
Bloody Caesar.
Bloody Caesar, okay.
Or bourbon.
Do you ever drink a beer? Or no, you're...
I do. I have been known to drink beer.
Okay. I would love to send you home today with some fresh craft beer from Great Lakes Brewery.
That would be lovely.
So that's going home with you. You
Oh,
got
delightful.
some lagers, some Canuck Pale Ale, very popular.
Delightful. And that actually might be just the thing for the
You know what?
hangover. Little hair of the puppy.
Hair of the dog that bit ya. I
Yeah.
think there's a song about that. Okay, so also just while I'm giving you your drink and grub here, and we're gonna get to know you, I gotta know what was going on at the Star. I'd love to hear. I mean, we're gonna find more details on what the class at Humber College. Is it TV history?
I'm teaching TV history. The program was TV writing and producing, so it was basically a showrunner's course. So my job was to acquaint them with 50 years of television,
Amazing.
from I Love Lucy to The Sopranos, and just show them stuff and then have them criticize it and analyze it.
I love it. Can you just teach me this course? Like, what would it cost for me to hire you as my personal tutor? I wish, I mean, I don't remember classes like this, but I did take a pop culture class at U of T, which was pretty fun. You know, I did an essay on Babe Ruth, for goodness sake, so that was pretty cool. But TV history, that sounds amazing.
Oh, it is so much fun. And it's great. This is the part that I'll miss, that
Yeah.
watching the light go on in their eyes. Because, like, for example, I mean, this is a group of students. They're all post-grad, so they're in their
Yeah.
mid-20s. Most of them have never seen I Love Lucy.
Right.
And that was the template for every situation comedy that followed, or at least multi-camera situation comedy to this day. And, you know, and occasionally I will get emails from students after the course saying, oh, you turned me on to this, and I'm now watching Columbo obsessively, or I'm now watching this. So that's exciting. That's fun.
And let me just hazard a guess. I got a couple of kids. I have 4 kids, but there's the 2 older kids. I kind of look at them and their behavior versus mine. Where when I was growing up, I'm a Gen Xer. Like, we watched what was on the TV at the time. We were in front of it, right? Like, what was on. That's right. So I Love Lucy. I saw a lot of I Love Lucy. I saw a lot of stuff because it was what was on, and you watched it. But meanwhile, my kids everything they watch is they purposely select it and watch it on demand. So I can't imagine they would just voluntarily say, let me try this black and white thing from before my dad was born.
Yeah, no, and it's, well, the whole paradigm has shifted much the same way that it did when HBO first started doing, like, Sex and the City and The Sopranos.
Right.
And prior to that had been only, like, pay-per-view boxing and movies.
And Dream On, which I quite enjoyed.
And Dream On, which was
in
great.
high school, yeah.
That was a great show. That was the first sitcom to use obscenity.
It was not. It was very popular in my high school because it was like a funny show with boobs.
Yeah, it was like perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so HBO changed the paradigm, and suddenly they became the boutique source
Prestige.
for all the really good television, TV better than TV.
Yeah.
And then now the streamers have come along and upset the apple cart again. But the big change in the paradigm is this being able to watch what you want when you want. And I found it hard to make that adjustment myself because, you know, I still record things when they air to watch later.
Sure.
But I don't actually
Like a
watch
DVR.
something. I can't remember the last time I watched live television.
Other than sports, because I still am guilty of tuning in to watch, you know, Leaf playoff games and live sports. So sports has to be live for me. But other than that, I'm going to just think on this. I don't remember the last time either, unless it was like the Oscars. But even that, we pause it when it starts, and then we get the kids to bed, and then we sort of catch up and skip commercials and stuff. So it's sort of live, but maybe Oscars, maybe something like if I was watching the Grammys or something like that. But television?
No.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
And the other thing is, it's going to be hard to make the separation. I would watch all the new stuff just to keep up on it with the students.
Right.
I don't have to do that anymore. But I still watch, like, a lot of television.
So may I ask, like, I'm going to pick a show that my daughter turned me on to, and I actually really like, so I've been digging it. But Euphoria, for example.
Which I have not watched.
So, okay, I was going to ask you if this is the kind of, you know, you got to, what the kids are watching.
Yeah, I should have watched it and meant to watch it. But see, the thing is, there's just too much stuff. If I was a TV critic now, and I haven't done it for like 10 years, but if I was a TV critic now, I couldn't cover it. There's just there's too much.
You know what? We're going to talk about all. So I think I was mid-sentence giving you a lasagna there, and then we got sidetracked. That's going to happen, Rob. I love it when that happens, actually. But I do have a lasagna for you. It's in my freezer right now. It's courtesy of Palma Pasta.
Oh.
They're in Mississauga and Oakville. Delicious Italian food. So you're taking that home with you. It'll go nicely with the beer.
That will be wonderful. And I'm a big Italy fan. Up until this year, we've gone every year for the last 20 years.
Lucky guy.
Love Italy.
Any particular part of Italy?
Tuscany.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Lucky man.
A little village called Anghiari. That's just,
here.
it's the 12th century walled village on the side of a mountain.
See, they figured it out. Like that's the lifestyle.
That's exactly it. They know what life is about, and they live it. It's wonderful.
Listen, let's go, man. Let's go. We'll write it off by recording podcast there or something.
And speaking of hangovers, you don't really get a hangover from the wine because there's no sulfites in it.
Okay,
So.
look, pro tip.
Yeah.
Love it. I know, delicious food, great wine. You're all set here. Now, I do want to let the listenership know, and you, Rob, that TMLX 15, that's the 15th Toronto Mic'd listener experience, is happening at Great Lakes Brewery, the southern Etobicoke. You'd have to schlep out your way. I like this word schlep. Like you said the word schlep, right? Like I'm using it like now all the time. Like it's my word. You got to schlep your way to southern Etobicoke. It's down the street from the Costco. So the street's called Queen Elizabeth Boulevard, number 30 to be precise, near Royal York. Royal York. Say that quickly.
Royal York.
Royal. I find it tough to come out of the Royal into the York, but I have trouble with some basic words, Rob. But basically, everybody is invited June 27 from 6 to 9 p.m. and Palma Pasta will feed you. Great Lakes will buy you your first beer, and you'll just hang with great FOTMs. We're going to have a good time. So everyone's invited, including you, Rob. June 27, 6 p.m.
Sounds like fun.
Come on out, man. Come on out. All right, We'll give you more gifts later in the program, but maybe bring us back. Like, when did you realize you could get a gig? Like, this sounds like my dream gig, entertainment critic and columnist and editor at the Toronto Star.
Well, it's interesting. Actually, and they used to run an ad in the paper promoting the column saying, yes, he gets paid to watch TV, and no, there are no openings. I started out, I was an actor, and a stand-up comic, and not particularly good at either of those things.
But like what? Like Danger Bay? What were you in? I'm just shouting out. Littlest Hobo? What's going on here?
Actually, I got more acting work once I started writing for the Star, but I was on a Degrassi. I've actually acted with Drake.
Oh, The Next Generation.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you play on that show?
I was
For
the
Andy.
priest that married Spike and Snake.
Honestly?
Yes,
that's
the Jewish priest.
That is a fun fact. Okay, they're called rabbis, right?
Yes, I know, but in this case, it was a minister.
Oh, it's a minister.
Not a
Okay,
priest.
you know, I'm
But it was weird because it was an actual minister's, like from an actual clothier to religious people. Wow. It was a real minister's
deal.
cassock.
So just so I don't pass this by here. So of course I was the OG Degrassi viewer. I never missed. That might be the last time I had to be in front of my TV. I think it was Monday nights at 8 or something like that. But loved my Degrassi. But Snake, of course, who's one of the Zit Remedy members. Okay, 1/3 of the Zit Remedy. Snake marries Spike, who had that baby with Shane.
Right.
Shane, sadly drug-addled. I think he took I don't know what happened to him, cocaine or LSD. I can't remember now, but he had a drug problem. And I think he thought he could fly. I'm trying to remember if I'm conflating my stories. But bottom line is, Andy will correct me later. She's the biggest Degrassi fan I know. She's listening right now. But you're the person who married Snake.
I married Snake and Spike.
Spike, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Like you're a part of Canadian TV history.
Absolutely. And you know what? I still get checks.
Really?
Yes, I still get residual checks. Last one was like $45, which is huge for a residual check.
It's like that Seinfeld
For
episode
Canadian
when
television.
Jerry keeps getting the checks from that Japanese ad he was in or
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But it's always, I framed the first one, and I've cashed every one since.
So, well, yeah, might as well cash that Degrassi money. So,
Right.
is that's your biggest role to date?
well,
No shame in that game.
I was in a couple of movies. Revenge of the Radioactive Reporter. I did not play the radioactive reporter.
I haven't seen that one yet. Is that good?
No one's seen that one, and it's a good thing. I'd put it this way: I did it under a pseudonym, Mel Asbor, which is my name backwards.
Oh, yes, it is. Okay, well done.
And I did like Lost Girl. What other shows have I done? I've done a lot of like biographies and like biographies, like Canadian biographies, like Candy, and was in the Mr. Dress Up movie.
Oh, where you play yourself talking
Yeah,
about the show.
yeah.
Of course.
Played myself
you'd
a
be like
lot.
the talking head.
Anyone who's really interested in this, I do have an IMDb page.
Well, people are going to be interested. I'm friendly with, because he went to my high school many years before me, I just want to point out, but we become very good buds, is Bill Brio.
Oh, Bill, I'm doing radio with Bill tonight, actually.
What radio?
CIUT?
CIUT?
News Talk.
News Talk 1010
Yeah.
with Bill Brio tonight. Okay, that's wild. Bill Brio, good buds, plays hockey with my good friend Joe Cini. And,
Lovely man. Lovely man. Known him for years.
so do you guys like, is it when they're making I don't know, a documentary about something like Mr. Dress Up and they need like somebody to speak to it? Do they decide, am I going to go Brio or am I going to go Salem? Like,
he actually, when I left the Star, he took over most of my gigs because I was like News Channel and I had fairly regular gigs on a lot of different news shows. And as soon as I was no longer the official TV critic, that all dried up fairly quickly. That's why it's so nice to do something like this. And Bill took over those, so more power to him. And Bill's got a website.
Of course,
Brio
Bill,
TV.
Brio.tv or something like that. And will say I produce the Humble and Fred show, and I book Bill Brio once a month to pop on Humble and Fred and tell them what they should be watching.
Yeah, he's so enthusiastic, Bill, and it's such a sweet man.
And he collects these 16 millimeter
16 millimeter films. He does these regular TV on film nights where he shows stuff, because a lot of this TV stuff was circulated to the stations on 16 mil.
Wow, wild. Okay, so Brio, if you're listening, your ears are burning. This is why Rob and I are chatting about you here. But back to Rob Salem. So, okay, so you were an occasional actor.
Well, I was. That was my goal.
But what is the stand-up? You were at like Yuck Yucks and stuff?
Yeah. I was taking Second City workshops, being taught by none other than John Candy and Joe Flaherty. Both sadly left us. But John was the one who suggested I go into stand-up, which I think was just his way of saying you don't work well with others. And I did stand-up for a while. I was very mediocre. Met my wife, though. So
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So this is with Mark Breslin's Yuck Yucks, and like I'm wondering, can you name check any of the other comics? Would John Wing be one of them? Or?
Howie Mandel started the same night I did. Jim Carrey, who I actually wrote for at one point.
Those are big names you're dropping there.
I noticed on your list of guests, Ralph Benmergui. He was a comic then.
Yeah,
a lot of guys.
He was hosting a lot of those shows, as I recall. Like, so John Wing, is he one of the guys?
Yep, John Wing was there when I was there.
And I'm trying to think, Larry Horowitz.
Larry Horowitz, he was the master. He was like he did the same exact set every time, but it was always flawless. So you couldn't fault him because it was a great set.
All right, now I got to ask you about the most comics who were on that scene. Their favorite comic was Mike McDonald.
Oh, Mike was brilliant. Mike was just brilliant. I didn't really know him that well personally, because I was still very low echelon comic. I would go on after midnight.
I'm wondering if Larry Fedoric was on the scene at that time.
Yeah.
Larry Fedoric.
Yeah.
Who, I produce his podcast, Later That Same Life. So it's a small world there. He went into radio. So you went into newspaper. He went into radio.
Yeah. So I got a job in order to support my stand-up comedy career, which then paid even less than it does now.
Which is difficult.
Yeah, and again, I was not that good, so I could have gotten better if I'd have. I'd like to think that I could.
You don't have any recordings of a set you ever did, and no one.
I do, and I've been afraid to play them
because I want to share it with the world. Okay.
I do have a recording of a set.
Hey, because we're going to do tangents, and because you mentioned John Candy and Joe Flaherty, which are pretty awesome teachers to have if you're at SCTV. That's wild.
They were both real mentors to me.
So 6 years ago yesterday, I believe, 6 years ago yesterday, there was an SCTV reunion. John, of course, not there, already passed, but Joe was there.
Yeah.
And this was I've talked to many people, including, who have I talked to? Dave Thomas and many people like that who were at the event.
I was at the event.
So by all accounts, this was a good 3 hours, right?
Yes, it was astounding.
Yeah, so I'm hearing it went well, and this is 6 years ago. This was all recorded. Martin Scorsese was directing this. Jimmy Kimmel was hosting it.
Yeah.
Do you have any insight into why this will likely never see the light of day? What happened? Do you know?
I think Scorsese got busy with other stuff. Sure. Remember, there's a whole...
The Irishman?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And also the pandemic came, and that put everything on hold. And it's languishing. The last I heard was that there is actually a possibility one day it will get made, but
the longer you wait, the less likely this becomes. Like already we've lost... Joe Flaherty, for example. Yeah. So when this comes out, it's going to be time stamped now.
Yeah. Well, but except, and I learned this also teaching, showing the students, which was another thing I did as an actor, by the way. I was an extra on SCTV.
Do you remember the skit? Or
Skits, many skits. Bob Hope Desert Classic, the Alki Stereopolis Pool Tournament.
Oh my God.
Sid Dithers, Johnny LaRue.
Oh my goodness. Classics.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what were you saying there? You learned something?
So I the last I heard was that it might happen. Still.
But where did you hear that?
Well, Joe,
okay.
and I don't think he had any real knowledge.
See, Dave Thomas doesn't think it's going to happen. I've had a couple of long chats.
I've talked to him about it too.
Yeah.
No, I honestly I don't think it's going to happen. I think that footage may get released someday.
Is it going to be like Get Back, where I'll be like 80 years old?
Yeah. We'll have to get Peter Jackson to put it together. And, but
he'll be a cyborg, though. It'll be like in the far off future.
Yeah. One of the best things about this thing was they had a crane, a camera crane, and it had Johnny LaRue written on the side of it, which if people who watch the show will remember, he was always after the crane shot.
Right. You know what? I'm getting angry again because 6 years is a long time for this footage to just languish on, I don't know, in some crate somewhere. And it sounds like the event went well. And I mean, you got Rick Moranis out for this, right? That was a big deal. Yeah. Because as far as I know, Ian Thomas had a benefit for his son who was badly injured in an accident.
Yeah.
And Rick, of course, came out to that and reunited with Dave Thomas, and you got your Bob and Doug McKenzie. But I don't believe, other than some radio ads for beer, but other than these radio ads for beer, which were directed by an FOTM, by the way, but other than that, I think Larry McInnes directed those. I don't believe there's any Rick Moranis, SCTV, anything that's happened in quite a while. So the fact he was there should make that footage rather valuable, I would think.
He hasn't really done anything other than raise his family and record a country album, which is just so left field. But
out of nowhere.
He did a country album.
Beyonce's doing it. Rick Moranis is doing it.
Michael O'Donoghue did a country, at least a country song. I don't know about an album.
Wow. Okay, I'm learning a lot. So you have you think it might see the light of day at one day, but we don't know anything. Has Martin Scorsese ever on the public record said anything about the SCTV doc?
No. Nothing since. He was there, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
But no, he has not said anything since.
He doesn't mean busy. He's busy. He's got the Killers of the Flower Moon or whatever. Like, he's got lots of stuff going on.
Well, at this point, it's an editor's job, and he's got like one of the best editors in the business.
Well, give it to my buddy Stu Stone, for goodness sake.
Oh, sure. Anyway, I don't know if we'll ever see it. I'd tell you, being there was just spectacular.
Do you wish now you had, and they probably had strict rules against it, but you had secretly recorded some footage, like so you could just leak that to people?
Yes, I wish I had.
If you had known, right? If you had only known Martin Scorsese was never going to produce this documentary, you would have secretly recorded video and you would have been very popular for doing that.
Yeah. But, who knows? In some form it could show up. Now with the multi-platforms and it could resurface.
So who owns the footage? Does Scorsese own this footage?
I'm assuming yes. I don't know who funded the documentary. I don't know if it was like for Netflix or something. I think it was HBO, but I may be wrong on that.
See, I wonder if it was to coincide with some streaming platform. Maybe Netflix was also going to, this kind of happened with Kids in the Hall, right?
Yeah.
They made the doc. Shout out to FOTM Paul Myers. They made the documentary, and it coincided with kind of a new season and the old stuff being on Prime. Like there was a whole, so I feel like maybe this doc was tied to some kind of a streaming, having all the SCTV stuff restored or whatever and available on demand. And then something business-wise fell through with that, and then it made it.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of a complicated, some are available on video. Most SCTV sketches, including, by the way, all the ones that I'm in,
YouTube.
Are available on YouTube.
I noticed that when Joe Flaherty died. It's a lot of good stuff. All right, so take us back to how you end up at the Toronto Star.
Well, again, I'm doing stand-up, not making any money, moved out on my own, dropped out of high school. I was like 17.
What high school did you go to?
Very many, because I moved around a lot, but mostly George Vanier.
Okay.
With Maurice LaMarche, the voice of the Brain and Pinky and the Brain.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah, so he and I were best pals. Anyway, I was on my own. I needed to pay rent. My father played poker with one of the execs at the Star and got me a job as a copy boy. And this was, in fact, I am the last copy boy to work his way up through the ranks from copy boy. No one else has done it since because you got to go to J school and, be like have a degree and stuff. And I actually worked my way up just by making myself a total pest. I just hung around the entertainment department.
That's the way we used to do it, right? That's the old school way. Get into the mail room or something, and then you see this in the movies all the time.
Exactly.
Okay, it doesn't happen like that anymore.
Well, yeah, and remember, this was like the 70s, so this was like all the President's Men era of newspapers, and it was a very exciting time.
Well, any like, who was at the Toronto Star that you remember when you got there?
Peter Goddard, the late great Peter Goddard, who also mentored me. Clyde Gilmore was the movie critic.
Right.
Sid Edelman wrote the gossip column. Later went on to become the editor. Who else was there? Ron Bass came in, movie critic. Bruce Blackadar. It was an all-star. Christy Blatchford used to work there. In fact, I sat next to her.
Wow.
But before she went to the Sun, she was at the Star. Bruce Kirkland, who was also at the Sun, was at the Star. It was William Littler, Gina Mallet. It was the entertainment meetings once a week were like the Algonquin Round Table. It was just so stimulating and so interesting, and there were such interesting, eccentric people. And it's an era that, they don't really even have an entertainment section anymore.
I don't think so, because Peter Howell does freelance work.
Yeah.
And Ben Rayner is not there anymore. Good shout out to Ben Rayner.
Yeah, he's still doing a few pieces now and then.
Yeah, he works in a record store in East York, I want to say, or on the Danforth there.
I love Ben. What a good
me
writer.
too.
What a good writer.
I'm a big Ben head here, too. Shout out to Ben Rayner.
Yeah.
And I like Peter Howell, too, actually.
Yeah, I like Peter. Peter actually I was movie critic originally, and Peter took over my job when I went to TV.
These are the fun facts I'm looking for, my friend. Would you say a few more words about Peter Goddard? Like, sadly, never will be on Toronto Mic'd, but
he was incredible. He was a genius. It was interesting to me because he was the first one to really befriend me as a young pup at the Star, and as a teenager, he was the enemy to us because he would go to these concerts that we all wanted to go to or went to, and would be critical when appropriate, which was a lot, and. He was the enemy. Everybody just hated him with a passion, and then you meet him, and he's the sweetest, most lovely man, or was. It was another interesting. Later on was when I was an editor. I was editing his copy, which was always an adventure because he was so brilliant. He would complete thoughts in one paragraph and then start the thought 4 paragraphs later. So you had to juggle the whole thing around to make it make sense.
like a Tarantino film.
Yeah, very much. It was like a jigsaw puzzle. But just the other thing that was interesting to watch him work was when he was trying to sort of order his thoughts, he would go to the supply cabinet and count blank pieces of paper.
Interesting.
It was very interesting.
I should try that.
It seemed to work for him, but that's what I interpret him doing because he did it all the time.
Interesting.
But amazing man, and again a real mentor. He had me reviewing rock concerts, which I had no idea how to do because how do you criticize a rock concert in any sort of objective? It's subjective by definition.
So much is tied to your personal musical taste.
Exactly,
right?
It's subjective by definition, so it's tough. But I did it, and he also I will never forget when I was still a copy boy. The Rolling Stones played the Elma Combo.
Right.
And Peter called in, and I was, one of the copy boy jobs was taking copy over the phone. He called up and said, "Why don't you come up?" And I was too new, too young, too timid. I didn't go. I missed the Rolling Stones at the Elma Combo.
Regrets you have a few.
That's a big one.
But that's one you can mention.
Yeah, but he actually, this young snot-nosed kid in the copy desk, he actually invited me to come up. So he was a great guy.
I think Weckerly's still trying to get the Stones to come back to the Elmo. So if you have any contacts there.
Yeah.
Speaking of Scorsese, you'll always hear a good Rolling Stones song in a Scorsese movie. Okay, I want to talk movies with you, but
sure.
So your copy boy, which is like an entry level thing because of a connect. It's all who you know, right, Rob?
Yeah.
So
it was who I knew or who my father knew, and then I sort of wormed my way into doing the listings, the event listings. So there'd be a calendar, and so I knew all the clubs and knew everybody who was booking everything. So that was a really good background, and then eventually I started. The man who is now my next door neighbor, Kevin Boland, gave me a gig writing. First story I wrote was about stand-up comedy, actually.
Okay, what specifically?
It was how to be a stand-up comic, and I used Howie Mandel as the example because he was just burning up right then. Yeah. And then after that, I have this really bizarre obsession with Superman. I collect Superman.
I saw your
stuff,
shoes.
and I've got the shoes on today.
So
I've
you and
got a
Jerry
tattoo.
Seinfeld have this
Yes,
obsession.
we share it. Anyway, so I wrote a story when Superman movie came out in '77. I wrote a story about the history of Superman.
Which involves the Toronto Star, right?
Yes, the Jerry Joe Shuster, the artist, was born in Toronto, grew up in Toronto. At the age of 9, he was a Toronto Star a newsboy
Right.
downtown, and he based his design for Metropolis on the Toronto skyline. And the Daily Planet was originally the Daily Star, and it was based on the Toronto Star.
Love it. What were those little vignettes we used to watch?
Historical moments, or
what were
whatever.
they called?
Something
to Google
history,
this one.
moments in history.
Yeah,
something.
there's so many. They're burned in my brain, and I remember
Yeah.
the Superman one
Yeah.
very well.
Yeah.
Man, see, it all come to full circle here. So, but you were a Superman fan before you worked at the Toronto Star.
Yeah, that was the weird thing. I became a meek, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, and I didn't know that Superman. Well, maybe by then I did. I've been a Superman fan since I was a little kid, and my mother eventually threw away all my comics, and it's warped me for the rest of my
That's
life.
another regret. I'm counting them for you, Rob.
Thank you. I'll leave here with a good annotated list.
Heritage Minutes.
Heritage Minutes.
Do you have a favorite Heritage Minute?
Oh, that one. Absolutely, that one.
That one for sure for you. I got the burnt toast, Dr. Penfield, is like, every time I smell burnt toast, I'm worried I'm having a stroke. Okay.
I think we all do that.
And
man.
the explosion in the Halifax harbor there was the great, I think it was biggest explosion in North American history. And the guy who's doing the Morse code to warn people, but of course he ends up dying.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of great of those heritage minutes.
Yes,
man.
for a fairly young country, we've got a vast and complex heritage.
Laura Secord, not just
There
a
you go.
chocolate woman, not just for chocolates, but Laura Secord warning the Brits that the Americans were planning that surprise attack.
Yeah.
That's a heritage minute. Okay, lots of great ones there. Okay, so I'm keeping track of these jobs. So you're doing listings. So you start
listings.
copy boy, now you're doing listings.
I'm doing
That sounds
listings,
fun.
and I'm told by the editor at the time I can't use verbs.
Oh,
I can't,
amazing. Okay.
So I go through that period, and then Kevin Boland lets me freelance this piece on comedy and then Superman. And the great thing about writing for a newspaper is it's really basic writing. It's like who, what, why, when, where. You've got people have to know what's going on.
Just
by
the facts,
lead.
ma'am.
Exactly. Well, and then you go to the next step and you actually inject some personality into it.
That's columnist, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But it's the best way to learn to write. So I was always, of all the classes that I took in the various high schools I went to, English was the one that I excelled at.
Yeah, bottom line is you could write.
Yeah, I could put a few words
You were a
together.
gifted writer.
I was a voracious reader when I was a kid.
Right.
And
So even though you didn't have a high school diploma,
no.
you were a gifted writer, and the Toronto Star recognized that.
Yeah, well, it got to the point eventually that it didn't matter that I was a high school drama because I'd been there for 30, 40 years.
Right.
It's like there's a certain amount of credibility that comes with that. I mean, they didn't fire you, so you must be good.
So what's your first real writing job, like full-time writing job, like
It was the
entertainment
stuff-
critic?
Yeah, it was entertainment. I made a pest of myself. I hung around the entertainment department. Mostly I remember because I was jealous of all the freebies that they got.
Yeah.
You know, just like when I was a kid, I would go, there was a place called Cinebooks, and I would go buy press kits for movies because they had movie posters and press kits and stuff.
Sure.
And then I went on to have this job where my desk was piled 4 feet high with them, and I was throwing them out by the armful. So I always had that interest.
So remind me, what calendar year do you become a copy boy at the Toronto Star?
77.
77. Okay, so I'm just doing the math. So the Christopher Reeve Superman
Came out also
movies
77.
come out at that time, right? That's the first one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I made the jump fairly quickly.
Yeah. So,
But it was a process. I mean, so I started doing the listings, no verbs. Then eventually they let me write more and more and more. And then Goddard really got a hold of me and got me doing concerts because there were so many concerts to cover.
what an amazing life you've led. You realize how blessed you are that this happened to you.
Rita Zikas, who's my wife.
Of course.
Another columnist.
Yeah, who should be a Toronto, an FOTM like you. Like, I grew up in a Toronto Star household, so I was reading all of you.
Yeah, but Rita and I forget the point I was going to make.
Basically, how blessed you are.
Oh,
You guys-
right, yes. We
yeah.
and I discuss that all the time
See,
because
I'm keeping track here.
we start to reminisce about just the people that we've met and the stuff that we've got to do. And it's such a rarefied, privileged place to be a journalist, particularly an entertainment journalist.
And you're an entertainment journalist with Canada's largest newspaper.
Yeah, and you get access to everything. I've met all of my heroes. I really
Who
have.
are these heroes?
John Cleese, Bob Newhart,
Wow, yeah.
William Shatner. I actually
All three still with us. Look,
Yeah.
no shouts out to Ridley Funeral Home.
Yeah.
There. Wow.
I ghost wrote for William Shatner. They made him editor for a day, and I ghost wrote his column.
Okay.
And got to introduce him at Massey Hall. So it was 2 huge milestones. I got to refer to Bill Shatner as Bill in front of an audience, and I got to go on the stage at Massey Hall.
Amazing. 2 times.
So
there.
again, you're right. I had to, but
But
best
it's like,
experiences.
even that. So it's you're covering the entertainment critic and columnist and editor at the Toronto Star, Canada's largest newspaper, in an era when newspapers mattered.
Yeah,
Like
especially the Star.
Yeah, especially the Star, largest circulation in still the largest circulation in the country, but
Yeah.
that's the shrinking pie.
Yeah, yeah.
So what year do you retire from the Toronto Star?
2000. Well, 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. And again, I got to say, it was not my idea.
Well, this is on Toronto Mike, we ask if you got the tap on the shoulder.
I
Okay.
did. Well, they're very devious about it. They transferred me. They transferred me to the city desk because they needed me there. They said, I was not. And I tried to get stories into the A section, and they just wouldn't take any of my assignments. And basically, it was. I mean, I can't say this officially.
Wait, why can't you?
They were squeezing me out, as they did most people who
I think
cost
you can
that
say
much
that.
money.
Like you can say that.
Yeah.
You were squeezed out. In your opinion, you were squeezed out. That's called constructive dismissal.
They were encouraging me to leave. And I had, because I was such a workaholic, I had like 6 months vacation time owed. So I took that. I took half a year off.
Okay.
And then came back to the city desk. Couldn't get anything in the paper. Eventually I was beating a dead horse. And they were starting to denacre the entertainment department at that point. So there were people leaving willy-nilly. And shortly thereafter, they left the building.
Were you fairly severed?
Yes. I got a good
That's
deal.
everything at the end of the day.
I got a good deal, and I continue to get a good pension.
So I'll cancel this phone call I'm making to my lawyer, Lauren Honickman. We don't need
Lauren Honickman. I know, Lauren. Say hi for me.
Shout out to Lauren Honickman. I have right now, you'll love this. I think you'll love this, that there's a legal issue with my dear friend Peter Gross.
Oh, yes, Peter.
Who we'll get back to this when I give you this book, but I spent quite a bit of time with Peter on Sunday. But he was here last week, actually, for an episode of Toronto Mike and more, which people can hear. I got in trouble for this episode. Hopefully I won't get in trouble for the episode I'm recording right now, Rob. But I actually, it's very rare in the Toronto Mike. This is almost episode 1500, and I can tell you, I only once had to kind of go in and edit something.
Yeah.
And that was because Ed Keenan of the Toronto Star started sharing what happened in court with the Rob Ford crack video. And then after the recording, he looks at me like he saw a ghost. And Ed says, there's a publication ban. And I said, yeah, I don't care. I just don't care. He's like, no, you have to. Anyways, we took it out.
Yeah.
Just because I like Ed Keenan and I didn't want anyone to get in big trouble here.
Yeah.
And then I had with this Peter Gross, and we'll get back to where I'm going with Peter Gross, but we had content in this episode that was illegal, which sounds exciting, but it's true. And I had to censor it. So there you go. But Peter Gross, who I spent time with Sunday, I'll tell you about that in a minute. But he is getting some pro bono help from his City TV buddy, Lauren Honickman.
Yeah.
So we're helping each other out here, Rob. You're now
That's
in
good.
FOTM. So.
Okay, glad to hear it.
So did you enjoy the City TV era, the Moses?
I
City
did,
TV?
and I hung a lot. Well, actually, I ended up working for Chum Television, Driving Classics. I was a host on Driving Classics, which was a station that could not exist today because it was just so politically incorrect. But yeah, I hung out.
6 years you did that.
Yeah, I did that for 6 years, and I hung out with those people. I mean, that was the scene then.
Yeah.
I spent most of my time on Queen Street West,
$2.99.
which was happening then. Steve Anthony was like my best pal.
Okay.
Well, still is.
That man's been over a few times. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's a sweet man.
He drinks. Speaking of sweet, he drinks. Got to get it right. He drinks coffee. The coffee he brought in had 6 sweeteners in it. and he says, in the middle of the episode, he says, and I said, like, that's ridiculous. He goes, try it. I took 1 sip. Oh my God, 6 sweeteners. Like, and I drink my coffee black, but even back before I did, I couldn't do a full sweetener. Like, it had to be like a 1/3 of a sweetener or whatever for my coffee. But yeah, you know, I guess, and like I said, Dave, it's better than doing Coke.
Yeah.
Like cocaine, not Coca-Cola. But how is Steve? Did he move back to Toronto?
He's actually in Calgary right now visiting his sister. But
Visiting
yes,
his
he
sister.
did move back
because he was
Toronto.
in Prince Edward County.
Prince Edward County for a while.
And he's back.
Yeah, he had a B&B for a while.
Yeah, I remember this.
But now he's back. But he's currently in Calgary.
Okay, I dig that guy. In fact, he came up recently because the program director at CFNY, who put Humble and Fred together, talked about Steve Anthony was the morning show.
Yeah.
So between Pete and Geets and Humble and Fred, there was a period of time when it was Steve Anthony on CFNY.
Yeah. The song "The Boy in the Box," the Corey. What's his name?
Corey Hart.
Corey Hart's song. That was about Steve.
Yeah, he was at Showm FM.
Showm FM, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the great stories. Okay, so who else at City TV were you buddies with?
Well, gosh, just about the whole space crew. Mark Asquith, who was the producer there. So all those people, all the driving people. Who else? Well, you know, just the whole gang. I mean, who's there? Who was there?
Okay, I'm putting you on the spot here. You didn't know this was City TV cast.
Yeah, Mark Daly and
The Voice.
Marilyn Dennis.
Hold on, you said Mark Daly, which means I'm now obligated to play this.
Oh, do.
The following program contains adult themes, nudity, and coarse language. Viewer and parental discretion is advised.
Oh, that just warms me all over. Another lovely man. You're bringing up all these people who I absolutely adore, and Mark was certainly
Brian, by the way,
one
there's a
of
picture of Brian Linehan to my right.
Someone
here,
else I adored.
Okay, well, tell me about these people.
right, well,
I sadly
Brian-
can't get those people on Toronto mic'd.
Brian. Well, you can't get Brian because he's dead, but
Or Mark.
but he. I remember it was during the days of SCTV, and he and I were on our way to a movie junket. He used to do all the junkets too, and
Sure.
He was talking about Marty doing his Brock Linehan character.
Of course.
And it really upset him. Like, he was crying while he was telling me about it. Like, people really see me that way. And I'm going, it's a compliment, Brian. It's
Right.
good.
It's like Barbara Wawa on SNL. Right?
And later, Marty says he was totally fine with it. But it was just an interesting chink in his armor because Brian was he was the man. I mean, he was the guy that everybody deferred to. He got all the good interviews.
Yeah.
And the research was insane.
Yeah, pre-Wikipedia.
Yeah,
he was Wikipedia.
he was Wikipedia. Absolutely, absolutely. He was astounding.
And Mark Daly, I hear nothing but good things about Mark Daly.
Mark Daly was a lovely man. I did I wrote a play, a musical, based on The Brain That Wouldn't Die. But there was a part for a newscaster in it, and I did a reading, and Mark was going to do it, and then he got ill, not tragically ill, but
Not the cancer.
not cancer, but Gord Martineau ended up doing it.
Gord Martineau, also an FOTM,
Yep.
so got him. Yeah, Anne Muskowski, too. I had Anne
yeah.
Muskowski and Gord did not get along. You might know this as an
I
insider.
didn't-
Yeah.
Well, actually, wait a minute. I did know this. I
Okay.
did know this later
Well, she said that Gord only talked to her when the red light was on. So things were a little frosty there. And it's interesting that her fiance is a gentleman who's behind the festival of beer that happens at CNE at the Bandshell. And he was here for an episode of Between Two Fermenters, which is the Great Lakes Brewery podcast. So I spent some time with him recently, and I said, Anne Muskowski delivers good podcasts. There's a woman who delivers the real talk. I loved my convos with Anne, but I'm loving this so much. Okay, so we will do tangents now and then. But since we talked about the SCTV doc being shelved, I'm going to ask you if you were at the Toronto premiere of the 299 Queen Street West documentary.
No, because I was busy promoting Mr. Dress Up at the time,
Which was great.
and the Much Music thing. It was lightning in a bottle. I don't know how many people are interested today, really.
It's me and a couple others.
Yeah.
And we're all going to get
those of us
together on
who
June
lived through it.
27.
Those who lived through it, yeah. But we're a dying breed, literally.
Well, okay, so speaking just for myself, when I start to fall in love with music as like a 12-year-old or whatever, and then basically that period of time through, I would say like 19, like there's that 7 core years. That's like when music is the most important thing in your life.
Yeah.
And for that period of time, I really had, 3 sources for music, okay? I had what they played on CFNY 102.1. I had what they played on Much Music, and then I had what I owned or borrowed from buddies who said, "Hey, man, you got to check this out. This is really good. You'd like this." Like those were like the 3 places, and that means Much Music is very important to a guy my age.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is the music videos themselves.
Oh, here's
a Much Music.
Yeah, that's actually from
postcard.
David Kine. So.
But David Kine is somebody else I know from back then.
Right.
And Jay Switzer. Oh, the late great Jay Switzer. I love Jay Switzer.
Okay.
What a wonderful guy. Anyway, the music itself, because it had such an influence on the pop culture at large, the pacing of a music video, it sort of came out of advertising, but the pacing of a music video and the attention span of the viewer has shrunken ever since then. But and the techniques of music video were adopted by film and then by television.
Like David Fincher, for example.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And the actual creators went on to become major creators. So it was a hugely, I'm not discounting it as a hugely influential thing. And it was, they were the hip people in town. If they were at an event, you knew it was a hip event. But this is an interesting thing. Moses, who I also knew, Moses confessed to me once that when they were early starting up, and it was like, that city TV everywhere. So in order to be everywhere, they actually had one wooden camera. Wasn't real, but it had all the logos and stuff on it. And they would take that to events just to have a presence at the events, which is so smart.
Which is so Moses there. I think
it's so Moses.
It's so Moses. Now, I have to know if my buddy Ed Conroy from Retro Ontario knows that fun fact. Because
I don't know if he does, but I know Ed
he
too.
will now.
We know all of the same people. I know Ed.
Well, now that I realize Ed was at the same event, that breakfast.
Maybe he introduced us.
Maybe he introduced us. He's working on a Electric Circus documentary.
Wow.
I don't even, by the way, I will have to fix that in post. I don't know if that's public or not, but he's working with Joel Goldberg, who is one of the founders of Electric Circus on what was originally City TV, I believe. And this is a weird thing, and this is part of their problem, I think, is that, not a problem, but it's a thing that you wouldn't have anticipated back in the day. But of course, Chum City owns City TV and Much Music, and there's a lot of back and forth. It's all coming out at 299 Queen Street, the same damn company. But at some point, as you know, City TV becomes a Rogers property, and Much Music becomes a Bell property. So now when you're doing something regarding Electric Circus, you've got the 2 cable giants that are sort of there. I don't know.
Not prone to collaborate. Put it that way.
Only on MLSE.
Yeah.
And how's that going for them? Oh, the Raptors won in 2019. So
yay.
Yay for the Raptors here. Yeah. Are you a sports fan at all?
Not in the least.
So no interest in baseball?
None. Although, another good story.
Yeah.
I ran a film festival, the B Festival.
Okay.
It was around the time of the
Cult
first
Film and Video Festival.
Yeah, Cult Film. That was the second.
Oh, that's that was Toronto B Festival.
It was the Toronto B Festival. But anyway, we're doing.
I did my homework like line of hand.
Yeah. Wow. And so we're showing. This is when the Blue Jays won the World Series for the first time. And
92.
At the time, it was 92. We're showing this German necrophiliac movie. This art film.
My favorite genre.
Art film with real corpses. It was a bad thing. But we're showing that, and basically the audience is like heroin addict college students, and all dressed in black. So the game is going on at the same time, and I'm running up to the front of the theater and just quietly, but writing on a piece of paper on the wall what the score is. And of course, nobody there could care less.
Well, yeah, otherwise they wouldn't be there.
And the moment, I will never forget this. I was up in the booth, and there's the climactic scene. Literally in the movie is this guy stabbing himself in the stomach while he's masturbating.
Oh.
And while this image is on the screen, I'm looking on the monitor. The projectionist, back when they had those, has got a little TV going, and the winning run.
Oh my God!
Is hit in.
It's synchronized.
It's synchronized, and then I go out and I stand on top of the marquee, and it's on Bloor Street. It was at the Bloor Cinema, which is now Hot Dogs. And watching this parade of humanity, it looked like Mardi Gras.
Right.
It was the most surreal evening of my entire life, and I've had many.
That sounds surreal, and that way it synced up sounds like when they say, "Okay, when the lion roars in Wizard of Oz, start playing Dark Side of the Moon."
Yeah, exactly.
What a night! Okay, so you don't give a shit about baseball, but you might be interested in Toronto history.
Yeah, that aspect of it.
Here, I'm working my way to just, hopefully this doesn't end up in the recycling bin, because there's a book I'm giving you on the history of Toronto Maple Leafs baseball. Not hockey. They play at Christie
Oh.
Pitts. I actually recorded live from Christie Pitts on Sunday, the home opener. It was an amazing time. Quickly going to shout out people that I talked to on Toronto Mic'd. This was episode 1487. I got a shout out, and these names won't mean much to you, but you know them. Wendell Clark.
Yeah, I know that name.
You got to know
Even
that
I
name.
know
He's
that
actually right
name.
here, too. So Brian Linehan, Wendell Clark, Stu Stone. The great ones are here. Maestro Fresh West, Georgie Animal Steel. Andre the Giants on this guy here. Okay, Doug Flutie's over there. Okay, so Wendell Clark, Rick Vive, Rick Emmett from Triumph. Are you a Triumph guy?
Yeah, I Mikey Levine's a good friend of mine.
I'm all choked up here. I got to get Mike on the program, actually.
Yeah, he'd be a good guest.
Who else? Quickly shout out here. Let's see. Mark Hebscher, Steve Pakin, Peter Gross, Stephen Brunt. We started things off with Stephen Brunt. He was amazing. Rod Black, the owner, Keith Stein, was on the microphone. We had Cam Gordon and MF, and that's MF making her Toronto Mic debut. If you know what MF stands for, you're in the know. But a lot of these amazing people, I saw Blair Packham there, but I didn't get him on the mic. But anyway, that was recorded. So go listen to episode 2 before this. And you'll hear all those people chatting me up at Christie Pitts. An amazing day for baseball, about 2,000 people there. It was unbelievable. And I will be back at Christie Pitts recording live at a 2 p.m. game. This is Sunday, June 2nd. So stick that in your calendar and come by. It's free. It's Christie Pitts. There's no ticket. You just come on by and enjoy some high-caliber baseball, great atmosphere, get a hot dog, get a beer, and maybe chat me up. Rob, you should do that too.
Yeah. I am often taken for a baseball fan because my friend Howie, my late great friend Howie, gave me a New York Yankees leather jacket, and I wear it proudly. Without any idea who's on the Yankees. And
Well, George Costanza worked for the Yankees.
yeah,
so there is a
that
TV
much
connection.
I remember, yeah. And that was Larry David's voice, by the way.
George Steinbrenner, yes.
Steinbrenner, yes.
It's funny because I didn't, once Curb debuted and I loved Curb, then I realized, yep, George Steinbrenner is Larry David.
Yeah.
And it all connected here. Yeah, Yankees actually arch rival of our Toronto Blue Jays, but people should come out and check out the Toronto Maple Leafs baseball.
I've had people yell at me driving by, or one guy yelled at me driving by, "Go back to New York."
I've noticed the Yankee cap has become a fashion symbol, and you'll see a lot of people kind of donning it as their wardrobe
Yeah.
with no allegiance to the team at all.
Yeah, well, that's me. That's me with my jacket.
Oh, I got to tie up a loose end here because I mentioned the 299 Queen Street West documentary. So I saw it debuted at Roy Thompson Hall like last September, I think.
Yeah.
Eric M., Michael Williams, a lot of interesting people involved. Steve Anthony was there, a lot of cool cats. But it was promoted to stream on Crave. And they promoted it, and they said it'll be available this day, which was like a Friday, I think. And it never did drop on Crave. This is now a few months ago.
Really?
And I did some digging. Apparently, there was a issue with licensing the music that you hear in the 299 Queen Street West.
You think they would have covered that?
Well, the guy who directed it, Sean Menard, is an FOTM. He's been over to tell me about the doc, and I haven't been able to get a comment from him on this. But it is interesting that this thing has never actually streamed anywhere, and I think some other Gen Xers who have fond memories of much might enjoy just seeing it. I take it you have no idea anything about the 299 Queen Street West documentary.
Yeah. Well, it's I forget where I was going.
It's okay. You don't have any. You know what? You never know. You got Rob Salem in the basement. You got to ask him all those questions you have about TV.
I
Bill
did have
Brio
something
moved to
very
Orangeville.
cogent. I did have something very cogent to say, but it's gone.
It's gone. Well, whenever it comes back, just spit it out here. Okay, so highlights. You said you spent 40 years at the Toronto Star,
Yeah.
and then you got the tap on the shoulder, and they severed you fairly, but it all came to an end. Maybe you weren't done, but they were done with you.
Yeah, and
That happens.
and I'm sort of in a weird way now that I've had some time to lick my wounds.
Yeah.
I'm sort of grateful. Just in this, I mean, I miss it, but I couldn't cover television today.
Too much, right?
There's just too much.
I agree.
There's just too much. It would take at least 3 people.
I struggle with the paradox of choice. Like, I actually personally, there's too much. We subscribe to Crave, and my wife has Disney Plus because my youngest is addicted to Simpsons, and which I quite like too. But then we have a Prime because she gets deliveries, and it came with some Prime it get bundled up with. So there's all this stuff, And I find it very overwhelming. Like, there are certain shows I actually like and I look forward to. I watched the final season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'll see the next season of Euphoria. Like, there's certain shows I'm into, but I'm drowning in this content and I end up watching like nothing.
Yeah.
So what do you personally enjoy that's an active television show?
Okay, well, again, my whole perspective has shifted because I'm not trying to sort of stay on top of everything now for the first time in my life.
Right.
But Ripley, as an example, Ripley is just it's like walking in. It's shot in black and white, and it's like walking into an art gallery photo show. It is so beautifully shot, based on the
talented Mr. Ripley,
yes.
which was great.
And Andrew Scott, who is an incredible actor, stars in
This
it.
is the guy from Fleabag, the
Yep,
priest?
the hot priest from Fleabag.
I watched a movie recently where he starred in. That was fantastic, too.
Yeah.
He's good.
I can't remember the name of that movie.
Yeah,
The
but it was great.
game movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. London, I think.
Yeah.
It was. Yes, exactly. Oh, and it's very surreal, that movie, and I quite... what's real, what's not, one of those bad boys, and I dug it. So shout out to that movie, whatever it's called.
Yeah, and Ripley is just, again, gorgeously shot and beautifully acted, and just a piece of art. What else am I watching? Just trying to think new shows. Well, we started watching just because we loved her.
All of Us Strangers, I believe, is the name of that movie.
That's what it is.
And it's a terrible title, right?
Yeah.
That's a terrible sometimes I see it, I go, that's a terrible title. Like, Ripley's a good title. Fleabag is a good title.
Yeah.
All of Us Strangers is a terrible title.
Yeah, because it doesn't tell you anything.
And it won't stick to you. It doesn't tell you anything. It won't stick to you. They should just call it Strangers.
Yeah.
Okay. I might remember that. Okay, sorry. Go on.
Oh, I was saying, the show that I'm both disappointed in and watching, it's Elspeth. This is a character played by Carrie Preston, who was on The Good Wife and then The Good Fight,
right?
Which were both brilliant shows. And now they've given her own show, and it's sort of a iffy premise, but she's wonderful, and the character's wonderful. And it's Robert and Michelle King, who produced the previous two series.
Okay, but you're underwhelmed by it.
The premise is a little thin, but it's getting better. But she's just so wonderful and so appealing and such a great character. We're watching Hacks.
I watched that with my mom. Like, that's the show, because my mom doesn't have Crave, and we save Hacks for her. She's because like she calls it the Joan Rivers show, but of course it's only loosely based on
Very
Joan.
loosely, yeah.
Very loosely.
But it's brilliant. Jean Smart is a goddess.
Yeah.
Rita watches a lot of British procedurals.
Of course.
One Australian procedural, Lucy Lawless's show. She's a friend of mine.
Really? Xena?
Yeah.
The warrior princess?
She was just in town.
So what? She comes over for dinner? You meet her for coffee?
We
What's
went
going on?
out to a matinee of Gentlemen Prefer Blondes at the Fox Theater.
Okay, something current. Okay.
It was wonderful.
Not
No,
bad.
she was in
But how
town
did you become friends with her? Just met her on the
20
junkets
years
or
ago.
something?
Yeah. Well, actually, I did when Xena was over. I wrote a cover story for Star Week magazine that was basically an open love letter to Lucy Lawless. I'd never met her. And I find out after the fact that her people made sure she got it, and she had read it. So I was totally humiliated.
You communicated with her through Star Week.
Yeah. And then she was in town shooting a Tarzan series. And I was working on the Gilda's Club gala. It's Always Something. And I got her and Eric McCormick, who I also met on the job, to sing in this show. And she did a Bare Naked Ladies song.
Which song?
I don't remember, because she had no time to rehearse because they wouldn't let her off set. So she actually went up and screwed it up.
Oh.
I felt so bad. But and this is to her credit. They were doing plaster casts of all these celebrity guests' hands.
Okay, glad you said hands. I was ready for whatever Jimi Hendrix got, the penis caster.
Well, this is close because Lucy offered to do her boobs and did.
Okay.
It was my job to stand outside the bathroom and make sure nobody went in while Lucy was plastering her boobs. So she's just so much fun. And,
I think that and the Degrassi marrying Snake and Spike are your two claims
those
to
are
fame here.
But anyway, Lucy was here with the documentary. She's directed a documentary on Margaret Moth, a CNN camerawoman.
Interesting.
That's really good. And so I think that's her new phase. But she does have a show called My Life is Murder that's on Acorn TV.
That's Australian.
That's an Australian procedural.
Okay, so we're bouncing around a little bit because I realize you mentioned Star Week, and I wondered if you could tell me a little bit about the late Jim Bodden.
Jim Bodden, that's another one. We called him the Phantom because he was the only one, because there was a trip to L.A. twice a year for the TV Critics convention that I ended up taking over, but Jim used to go, and he was the only person who would ever come back from L.A. paler than when he left. And he was always lurking around the office late at night. He was a prolific gossip, loved to tell stories about other people, and was a huge champion of Canadian television. And to the point where I wrongly and I shouldn't have, but I tended to overlook Canadian television unless it was something that was like really good. But Bodden covered all those other struggling shows that there just wasn't the room to cover them in my column, but he took up the slack there and covered all the Canadian stuff.
Do you think Canadian television is getting better?
Yes. Well, I think Schitt's Creek was the real the deciding factor, or that's not the word I was looking for, but Schitt's Creek is, to me, the perfect Canadian show because, first of all, it makes use of our greatest natural resource, which is our comedic talent.
Right.
They don't have to go to the States to do it. And it's a rural show, which, look at Corner Gas. I mean, shows like that, they tend to be they're both a microcosm of the real world, so you can deal with those issues. Plus, it's like how silly these small town people are. But on top of all of that, it was an exportable show. It was a sellable show internationally. And when it hit, it first hit a cable station in the States, then it hit Netflix, and went. But no one's ever done this before. They won every single comedy Emmy.
Unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Who would have saw that coming? If we go back in time when, and you name your crappy Canadian sitcom of the day or whatever.
Yeah.
Geez, yeah. And then all of a sudden, and the two, it helps that the stars of the show, the two stars, were famous to Americans.
Yeah. Yes. No. And
And Chris Elliott was in that thing, as I recall.
Yes, he was.
I loved Get a Life.
Yeah, I did too. I loved his sensibility. Although that one movie he did was horrible. But
Cabin Boy.
yeah, no.
Oh, no.
Cabin Boy. Yeah, Cabin Boy was okay. There was another one he did.
That was so bad I don't remember it. I just remember David Letterman had the cameo in Cabin Boy.
Yeah.
Something about want to buy a monkey or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But Schitt's Creek is the high mark right there, and to shoot for that, a show that's funny on its own merits and exportable to the world, because we're a small market. That's the problem. Unless we can sell to the States or internationally, it's not a viable commercial proposition.
Well, I just read they canceled or did not renew. I don't know the proper semantics on this one, but Runnin' the Burbs, which was not a spin-off, but had an actor who was in Kim's Convenience.
Yeah.
Another show that had didn't get a proper send-off. They got robbed of a proper finale because the creator of the characters, Mr. Inns, I can't remember his first name right now, but basically pulled the plugs and surprised the CBC.
Yeah, it happens so much. And it's always about something other than the actual show and who's watching it. But CBC is notoriously bad at promoting its own stuff. I mean, there are shows like the last time there was this confluence of great comedy talent was Michael Tuesdays and Thursdays, which was Bob Martin, who's gone on to become like a Broadway writer.
Okay,
Drowsy
I don't even know the show.
Well, exactly, because it didn't get any promotion. Don McKellar was involved.
I know Don McKellar, sure.
He's got a new series, The Sympathizer.
Okay.
So that's
the big Canadian comedy I'm aware of. Not watching. I don't know what that says about me, but I hear good things. Is Son of a Critch.
Yes, I hear good things about that too, and I also have not watched it.
We don't support our own, Rob.
No,
we're part of the problem.
We
here.
never have, and the fact that I wasn't covering more Canadian material when I was a critic is not a mark of distinction by any stretch. It's a short-sightedness on my part. I mean, if there was a show that I thought was worthy of being championed, like Michael Tuesday and Thursdays, or Colin Mockery had a show with his wife called Getting Along Famously,
and they were at that SCTV documentary filming.
Yeah, they were there.
Because I asked them if it was good, and they said it was great. So.
Yes. Yeah. And again, two absolutely lovely, wonderful people. But I really championed their show. It was an interesting experiment CBC did where they commissioned a whole bunch of pilots and aired them all. And the ones that got the best ratings, people.
It's like a
would
reality
watch.
show.
Yeah, yeah, or Project Greenlight,
Right.
which is a reality show. But I thought that was a really good way to plumb the vast resources we have. And Colin and Deb's show didn't go that long, but
It's too bad.
but it got.
But they're
us-
lovely people.
They are absolutely lovely people.
Sweethearts. All right, let me give you a break here, and I will let the listenership know about a couple of podcasts that they should subscribe to. And you get a gift here too, Rob. You're getting so much swag. It was worth the schlep, okay?
This. I love this.
There is a wireless speaker there. In
Wow.
fact, should I go up and get you? You can have either a beer or a glass of water. I can do either or.
No, I'm good.
You're good. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a wireless speaker here from Moneris. There's a QR code there that will help you subscribe to the Advantaged Invest. No, actually, oh my goodness, Mike, that QR code will help you subscribe to Yes, We Are Open. And I learned that the latest episode has dropped. Al Grego hosts this thing. It's an award-winning podcast. He talks to small business owners and gets their great stories to inspire you, and he shares them on this podcast from Moneris. But he was in Alberta. But now, this episode is actually Niagara Falls, okay? I can bike to Niagara Falls. I can't bike to Alberta. But he goes down to Niagara Falls. He visits Andrew Vergalito. He's the owner of Italian Ice Cream, a business his parents started 47 years ago. And he chats with Al Grego about it over some delicious espresso and gelato. And you can check out that story on Yes, We Are Open. And yes, you can also subscribe to the Advantaged Investor podcast. Whether you already work with a trusted financial advisor or currently manage your own investment plans, the Advantaged Investor podcast from Raymond James Canada provides the engaging wealth management information you value as you pursue your most important goals. And last but not least, actually, this is penultimate. So there is a measuring tape for you. That green,
I noticed
that's
that.
from Ridley Funeral Home.
What do they measure? I'm afraid.
What would you like to
ask.
measure with that, Rob? It's yours now. What you do with it is your business. I don't need to know all the details. What's a fun fact is that, and I know you're not a baseball fan, but if you make your way to Christie Pitts to see a Toronto Maple Leafs game this summer, and everybody should, it's a great time, you will see that the official funeral home of Toronto Maple Leafs baseball is Ridley Funeral Home. That's a fact.
Like, okay, I run a funeral home. I'm thinking, what am I going to sponsor? What works? Baseball. Absolutely.
Well, you never know. It's an exciting new era for the Toronto Maple Leafs baseball team. And Brad Jones from Ridley Funeral Home is a great FOTM himself. And then now, last but not least, recyclemyelectronics.ca. If you, Rob, have a drawer at home, maybe you got old cables, old electronics,
Boxes
old
and
devices.
boxes.
Don't throw it in the garbage because the chemicals end up in our landfills. You go to recyclemyelectronics.ca, put in your postal code. They'll tell you an accredited depot where you drop that off, and they will properly recycle your electronics. So that's your homework. This is a tough question, but you were 40 years at the Toronto Star. Do you have a couple of highlights, like maybe these pinch, I can't believe this is happening, pinch me moments?
Yeah. Lucy was one because she came to me to the TV critic.
Lucy,
Lucy
oh,
Lawless.
yes, okay.
that-
I thought you
that
were
was
talking about
an-
Lucille Ball.
No. That was an unforgettable moment.
Right.
There was one of my major heroes is Sean Connery. And I had the chance to interview him at a press conference, and it didn't satisfy. I finally got a one-on-one chat. It wasn't a one-on-one. It was a round robin. So it was me and 6 other journalists at a table. But the movie was The Rising Sun, which he produced, or he was a co-producer on.
Right.
Written by Michael Crichton for him. In fact, the character's name was John Connor, so it was clearly him.
Right.
Anyway, there was a lot of complaints about its depiction of the Japanese business community. So Connery comes in. It's 8:30 in the morning. I'd been up all night at a bar with owned
Just
by a
like
friend
last
of mine.
night.
Yeah, really. It's
I'm noticing a trend.
I want to say I don't drink that much, but that's not true. I do. Anyway, so I'm hungover. Like I'm still drunk and I'm hungover because we were up all night. And I walk in. It's 8:30 in the morning. Sean Connery walks in. If you've ever read an interview with Sean Connery, he just eats journalists for breakfast. He's the crankiest man. So he walks in and he's clearly in a bad mood. But he's wearing a short sleeve, like a polo shirt.
Sure.
Sits down at the table.
Mm-hmm.
And I notice he's got tattoos up and down both arms. And I'm thinking, like, how many times have we seen this man with his shirt off?
Right.
Never seen the tattoos. Obviously, they put makeup over. Anyway, so unable to form sentences at that time of the morning in my condition, I just sort of pointed and went, tattoo. And there was a moment of silence where he glared at me, and it felt like 5 minutes. It was probably like
I was
5
hoping
seconds.
you would do a Sean Connery brogue there.
I was about to. See, now you've totally ruined the surprise.
Oh, I was waiting. Okay.
Anyway, he finally responds.
You're the stand-up. My timing is off.
And what seems like minutes go by, and then he finally responds, and he says, "No, I did not wake up one morning next to some ugly hooker." And again, I'm thinking, this could be good response or bad. They might like me. And it turns out he just loved me. And the other 6 journalists ignored them. It was just him and me at the table.
Because you were just the right level of disheveled.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, I got this one in the Merchant Marines and this one's a Thistle. And, it was like him and I, and we actually got on to more substantive subjects from there. But that broke the ice. And that's really the key. If you want to know how to be an interviewer, that's the key. Ask the unexpected question.
Okay. Explain your tattoo that I see on your right arm.
It's a whole thing.
Okay, he's taking off his shirt, everybody. Rob Salem.
It's
stripping in the basement.
It's a Superman thing.
So, it's a Superman thing.
So it's the shield, the belt, and the boot.
Okay.
There's
very
a whole
cool.
Superman on my arm.
That's amazing. That you and Shaquille O'Neal. I feel like he's got that. I think Shaq's got that. He's got the Superman symbol. Amazing. Okay, big
John
fan.
Bon Jovi.
I knew about Jerry Seinfeld, of course. Everybody knows about that, but I didn't know about John Bon Jovi. I just heard him on Stern. I borrowed a car, a Hyundai Palisade, to drive to Montreal, and I had Sirius XM in this car. I don't normally have Sirius XM, but Howard Stern was chatting up John Bon Jovi. I almost call him Bon John Jovi, whatever. But did you know he got his, and I already kind of knew this from another podcast I listened to, but his first ever musical anything was the Star Wars Christmas album. He worked on the Star Wars Christmas album as like a teenager, and that's his first like musical credit.
Not related to the Star Wars holiday special, I hope.
No, not related actually.
I showed that to my students every year too. I did.
Oh yeah, B. Arthur's in that one, right?
B. Arthur,
I've
Harvey
seen it.
Korman. It's horrifically awful.
Yeah, well, they disowned it, right? Like
George Lucas once said if he could have one wish, it would be to take a sledgehammer to all existing copies of that. And there are copies. It's on YouTube. It's
not to get rid of Jar Jar Binks. He's got that one wish, and he's going to let Jar Jar live.
Yeah,
okay.
no, Jar Jar's okay, but it's the holiday special.
Yeah, you can find it on YouTube. And
there's a really good 20-minute cut down that just has the worst parts.
Okay. If I remember correctly, they're trying to get Chewie back to his home planet because there's some light festival.
The
or
Life
whatever.
Festival, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a scene at the end where Carrie Fisher sings the theme from Star Wars.
Wow.
And is clearly, and she has since admitted.
Like Bill Murray did that on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, but it's not like that. It was like the actual song with actual lyrics, and she has since admitted, and it's very clear from watching it, she was high as a kite when she did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That keep dropping those fun facts. But yeah, this is unrelated. The big song off this album is "What Do You Get a Wookiee for Christmas When He Already Owns a Comb?" So you can find that on YouTube, everybody. That's the big jam from
that has to be a country song.
I think I can sing it for you, but it's better for you. I don't.
Okay.
But you can pass. Okay, so we've got Lucy Lawless, we've got Sean Connery.
Yeah, that was a
and
good
you're
one.
Still friends with Lucy Lawless, which is wild.
Because she's wonderful.
Is she the most famous person who will like answer your text? Who's the most famous human on the planet? Globally famous, not Toronto famous. Who will actually reply to your text? And don't worry, I won't make you prove it.
No, she may be.
That's a big one though. She's famous.
I mean, I regularly text with Colin Mockery. He's not exactly. Well, he's internationally famous.
Yeah, because he was on Whose Line Is It Anyway, which was big in the States.
Yeah, he's
there,
a good friend.
Drew
He and
Carey.
Deborah are good friends.
Yeah, Deborah McGrath.
I mean, most of the SCTV people. I mean, got a big hug from Catherine the last time I ran into her. The thing is, when you do what I did, it's your whole life.
Yeah.
So it's your social life. So all of my friends were in the entertainment business. And it was a valuable lesson and a hard lesson to learn that once I did not have that power to get them in the paper, a lot of people fell by the wayside.
That's when you find out who your real friends
That's when
are.
you find out who
You
your
can't
friends
get
are.
them free press.
Yeah, and I'm pleased to know that most of the people I really loved out of that group are still my friends. So a lot of the phonies dropped away.
Which is good. Like now, you're right. If I shut down Toronto Mike, will Steve Paikin still reply to my text?
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not. What is the thing on your neck?
It's just earphones.
Oh, that's earphones.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I'm like, is that another Superman thing? I was trying to remember.
No.
I gotta say, what is it? Office Space references the plot from the third Superman, that's the who's the stand-up comic?
Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Oh my goodness. Yeah, not so good, but I will say young Michael enjoyed it. Like, it was only when I got older and watched it, I realized, oh, that sucks. But
Yeah,
I
it was
did like it
pretty
as a
terrible.
kid. I was pretty young.
You watch Superman 4. I was on the junket for that. And it was so bad. It was the only movie in 40
Is that
years.
the nuclear one? What is that?
Yeah, that's the Nuclear Man
okay,
one.
okay.
But in 40 years of journalism, I never went on a junket where the movie or TV show was so bad they did not show it to us before the interviews. That happened on Superman 4, Quest for Peace.
Quest for Peace, that's right. But
Yeah.
I will say, I prefer Superman 2 to Superman 1.
Yes, yes. Although the Donner cut, I've got an autographed copy of that, actually. Richard Donner was
yeah, they're
originally
great.
doing both movies, and in fact shot most of the second one while he was shooting the first one. And then he got canned by Ilya Salkin, and they brought in whoever the hell did it, Richard Lester, I
Someone
think?
else.
Someone else. But they actually have done a Donner cut of the second movie, which is vastly better than the one that was released.
So Superman 1 and 2 were intended to be one movie? Was that going to be like
No,
a 7-hour movie? Oh, it was always
no.
going to be two movies.
Two movies shot at once.
Okay, like they did with Back to the Future 2
Yeah.
and 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Because in Kill Bill 1 and 2, of course, were shot
Yeah,
at the same time. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I love that movie.
Like we didn't have like this whole. My kids are living in this Marvel universe. Okay, when I was
Yeah.
growing up, if you wanted a comic book movie, you had these are your options. You had those Superman movies we're talking about, and
Yeah.
you had Howard the Duck.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was. I went and saw that at the Directors Guild in L.A. They had a screening, and my friend Irick and I were driving back, coming up with bad puns for my headline. It was, Lucas lays an egg. Howard's a turkey. I mean, it just
Ducking Awful?
wrote itself.
You
yeah.
could use Ducking Awful if you want.
I could have, but it's the Toronto Star. They would not have gone for that. Best headline that Rita ever got away with. Rita wrote
Yeah.
the best headlines you got away with. There was a show at the Imperial Room, and it was in a water tank, and it was like swimming thing in a water tank on the stage of the Imperial Room, which is like a nightclub. And Rita's headline for the story was "Tanks for." Oh, it was topless. It was topless.
Oh yeah,
So Rita's headline was "Tanks for the Mammaries."
very good.
See,
Okay,
there's another one she almost got canned over. It was the Film Center picnic at the festival, and it was Fran Drescher and Kim Cattrall, and Fran Drescher had her dog tucked under her arm, and Rita's cut line under the photo was 3 bitches in heat. It was a hot day. Kim Cattrall has never forgiven her.
there's a photo of Pierre Elliott Trudeau taking Kim Cattrall to some kind of a party or function or something. Maybe Junos or something like
Yeah.
that. Anyways, I've seen that circulate. All right, Kim Cattrall. Okay, one little thing here. So because you did say Sex in the City. No, it's Sex and the City.
Sex and the
People always
City.
screw that up, right?
I always used to screw it up.
Yeah. So Sex and the City. It's funny. I have a client named. Well, her name's Diane Sachs. She's a city councilor,
Yeah.
and she's launching a new podcast, and they're calling it Sacks in the City is what they're calling it. And I gave them this pedantic, like, well, it actually should be Sacks and the City, because the show, and like this whole thing, it's like, why do I bother? Like, just whatever. Okay. But the reason I brought up Sex in the City is because they rebooted it. And
Yes.
Just Like That is what it's called.
Yes.
And I did watch most of it out of curiosity, but they were promoting that Samantha was going to return for a cameo in the finale of like season 2 or something.
Yeah.
And of course, there was a falling, the famous falling out. Kim
Yeah.
Cattrall, who plays Samantha, had a falling out with the other actresses. She's not part of this reboot. So I'm like, I'm curious. Like, I'm going to watch this and see, like, the return of Samantha. So she literally phoned it in. It's literally Carrie is holding a phone, and you see a phone conversation, like a video of Kim Cattrall saying, "Sorry, I can't be there."
They're not even in the same place.
No.
Even if they're in the same city.
She could have literally, Kim Cattrall could have filmed this on her iPhone and emailed the file to the like that's the cameo. Definitely not in the same. Don't have to be in the same country.
It was the closest that they could get them together. They do not like each other.
I just wonder, like, so Kim agreed to do this little video where she says, "I love you, Carrie, good luck," or whatever, and nice things like that. Sorry, I can't be there. Wonder what she gets paid for that. That's
Probably
what I want to
a
know.
whole lot of money. Because it's worth it just for the publicity.
Yeah, just for idiots like me who hear about the cameo appearance by Kim Cattrall and tune in to see it.
Yeah.
Jeez, they got me. Okay, I won't bite again. I gotta say, Rob, this was amazing. Like, is there a final story that, like, on your way here, you were on the bus or something, and you're like, I would love an opportunity to share this story or anything? Because you've been amazing in your Toronto Mike debut.
Well, I'm honored and thrilled. The Sean Connery story is pretty much my favorite.
You can't top that.
I can't top that.
No, that's a big deal. That's a big deal here.
There are so many stories. Oh, there is. Well, the punchline is actually the whole story, but doing cocaine in the booze can bathroom with Mel Gibson.
That's a great story.
Yeah. Well, that's basically the whole story. Well, there's actually more to it.
But the fact, so you did cocaine, because
I did a lot of cocaine. Back in the day, I was very, very bad boy.
Well, that's how you became friends with Steve Anthony.
No comment.
Peter Gross tells me he did cocaine in a limo with Jeannie Becker.
Really?
And I was kind of I was hinting. I had Jeannie Becker on the show, and I was hinting at it, and she was not biting. Like, she was not going there. So whatever happened in that limo with Peter Gross, that, off the record. But it's, the City TV 299 Queen, and before that it was 99 Queen East. But it's notorious for drugs.
Yeah, it was a heady time. No, I got quite screwed up on it, and it took.
But
me
you're clean
years.
now?
I am totally clean. Clean as a whistle.
Good, except for the
Except
booze.
for the drinking, yeah. And weed. I smoke a whole lot of weed.
It's better than Coke, man.
Yo,
Every time I hear about George Michael dies of a heart attack in his 50s, I'm like, that's the Coke.
Yeah. No, I know. So many people that I've known have died from just not getting their act together.
But John Gallagher's still alive. I just want to put that on the public record.
Spiky.
He's in Halifax now.
Yeah?
He's in Halifax.
Yeah. Posts a lot of stuff on Facebook.
He took selfies before people had.
I know, he's got selfies with everybody.
Because I used to produce his podcast. It's called Gallagher and Gross Save the World. Rob, you got to listen to this thing.
Okay.
It's just Peter Gross and John Gallagher sharing stories.
Oh, the two
How
of them
many
are
women
hilarious.
he's bed. He tells stories about drugs and Moses, and it's unbelievable. You got to listen to Gallagher and Gross Save the World. It's you would love it. And
All right, I will.
And then John moved out. Well, COVID happened, and it kind of messed up John, and he ended up moving to Halifax and everything. But why am I bringing up John Gallagher? Oh, yeah. So he's told me, because I asked him, why are there pictures? Like, if OJ dies, I'm going to see a picture of OJ Simpson with John Gallagher. It's because he had those disposable, he bought a bunch of those disposable cameras, and he kept them in his glove compartment. And anytime he was anywhere where anyone famous was, he got the disposable camera and took a pic, and he's got pics with everybody.
Yeah, one of my great regrets is that I spent a whole day and night with William Shatner and didn't get a picture.
Yeah. I'll take your word for it. You look like a trustworthy guy. Would your wife do Toronto Mic'd?
I'm sure she would.
We're going to make that happen.
All right.
I'm going to get on that. But thanks for doing this.
It was a pleasure. What a joy.
Don't leave without your lasagna, and we'll take a photo by the Toronto tree. And again, you're now an FOTM. You can add that to your bio. Friend of Toronto Mike.
Good. I need something. The bio's getting.
But are you looking for a gig now? Or are you done?
I'll tell you.
So do you need money? That's a private question, I know. But some people are, I'm good, and some people are like, I got to keep earning.
Yeah, got to keep earning.
Okay, got to get out there and hustle.
Yeah, but I have a very comfortable pension, so we're good.
That's right, 40 years at the Star. Not so shabby. And that brings us to the end of our 1,489th show. You can follow me on Twitter and Blues. I'm all over the place. I'm at Toronto Mike. Where's the best place to learn about what's going on with Rob Salem?
Facebook, Instagram.
All the meta properties.
All the meta properties. Yeah, I'm a meta guy. I'm still on
But
Twitter.
You did coke with Mel Gibson, the greatest anti-Semite I know. So
I know.
You'd be okay on Twitter, okay?
Who knew then that he was such an asshole?
Woo! Jodie Foster still likes him, though.
Yeah, well. So does Graham Greene, another friend of mine. Graham Greene likes him.
Well, if Graham Greene likes him. I'd have him on Toronto Mike. Much love to all who made this possible. That's Great Lakes Brewery. Can't wait to take down a Sunnyside Session IPA later today. Palma Pasta, taking care of Robbie here.
Yay.
RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Raymond James Canada. The Toronto Maple Leafs baseball team. Get your butt to Christie Pitts and be sure to be there on June 2nd and hang out with me. Monaris and Ridley Funeral Home. See you all Friday when my special guest is Jean Champagne. See you then.